Good evening, Perth, and you welcome another appointment with Age Radio Australia with me, Mauro, and the podcast Progress Over Perfection that every Thursday go live from this beautiful radio station. Today we're going to talk about family law. Okay. Before to start this conversation, it's important to understand that everything we're going to say here is very broad, okay? So if you have questions, it's important that you talk with your lawyer or contact a lawyer, okay? So don't take everything that we say here as an absolute, because the absolute, there is anything. So my guest today is Taisel Tan.
Yeah.
Taisel Tan, you're welcome, and thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, as Mauro said, this is all, none of this is legal advice. It's just, I guess my experience that I've had in family law in WA. Yeah. So
Yeah.
thank you for letting me come in here and talk about it.
Beautiful. Would you like to tell us a little bit about you? Where did you study, and what bring you to become a lawyer?
Yeah, absolutely.
family lawyer?
I actually, my first degree is an undergrad in Bachelor's of Accounting. That was at UWA. And then once I finished that, I did a postgraduate law degree at UWA. I've been practicing for just over 2 years now at Tan and Tan Lawyers. My father's a lawyer, and I guess I've just tried to follow in his footsteps as much as possible.
Let's start with a simple question, because in the whole conversation, you point out about the fact that there is a difference between divorce and separation.
Correct.
Okay. So many times people say, I'm going to get divorced.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but it's not the right things to say.
Yeah. So
what is the difference between separation and divorce?
Yeah. So I think when people say divorce, they're thinking of separation, and separation really means financial separation. So there are really three facets, I guess, in the family court of WA that they deal with. One is divorce, and that's just a piece of paper. It allows you to remarry whoever else you want after that.
Okay.
The next is parenting matters, which is, who looks after the children.
Mm-hmm.
And the last is what everybody thinks when they say divorce. It's the financial separation. So the division of assets and liabilities and things like that.
So what is the right things to say when a couple say we're going to
Separate.
separate?
Yes.
So after the separation, then they're going to have a divorce, correct?
Well, you can,
If
there's
they
no
want
cookie
to.
cutter approach to it. You can get divorced first and then do your financial separation. But more often we see people want to focus on that financial separation first and then come to the divorce later on.
Yeah. What are the most common legal issue parties face at the start of a family law separation?
Yes, I guess that ties into that whole thing that there's three parts of family law. So that's really the three issues that you're dealing with. Legal issues is, who's going to look after their children. That's parenting matters. What assets and liabilities, how we're going to divide it. That's the financial. And then the last one is obviously divorce. So those, I guess, are the three main legal issues that people will deal with. Okay.
There is anything maybe specific, that more specific that you can see they struggle?
I guess it all really depends.
Depends.
Yeah.
Relationship. Yeah. Depends on how the family structure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Let's talk about prenup and postnup.
Okay.
What are the differences?
Okay. In Australia, we don't call them prenups. We call them binding financial agreements. And they can happen at the start of the relationship, in the middle, or at the end.
Okay.
And it can also happen for de facto relationship or a marriage. With a binding financial agreement before a marriage, you're really just trying to quarantine your assets from the asset pool.
Okay.
And then a post separation binding financial agreement, we typically see this when perhaps the agreement is not the fairest.
Okay.
Parties, but they've already agreed. Parties will try and keep it out of the court so that they can get away with whatever they want to do.
Okay.
Because if it's not fair and a registrar looks at it, I'm not saying that it's always going to happen, but there's a possibility that a registrar will go, this is not fair. I'm not going to distribute the assets in this particular way.
Mm-hmm. Do you think in today's society, prenup is something that couples should have?
Oh, I think it's all very, very dependent. It's all depends on the situation you're in. In what I've seen is that a lot of the times I'm drafting a binding financial agreement is when you have two parties who have already gone through this financial separation with somebody else, they found each other, and then maybe they just want to look after what they've already brought in for their children later on.
Okay.
Just in case. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's more. So what do you think? When is the case that a couple should have a prenup?
Well, like I said, it's all very, very dependent. But again, if you have two people who have already gone through that whole thing, and they have that money and all those assets, and they want to look after it, that's probably the best time. We do often see when there's a very big asset disparity between two parties, and they want to do a binding financial agreement, which we can understand as well.
Okay, so in that case, it would be to protect the one to have less.
That will protect
or
the
they want to have more. To have more. Okay, this is in a way that we're going to save. I don't know if save is the right word.
I guess people will do it because they want to make sure that if they do go through that separation, they're not fighting about things like them wasting their money on lawyers.
Yeah, of course. How does getting married affect financial responsibility between the partners?
It's a really good question, but I think that's a question that would need to be thrown back at you.
Okay.
Because there's no real, obligation to parties who pays what.
Okay.
But that is a conversation that I think a lot of people neglect to have.
Okay.
So perhaps I'll ask you, what do you most commonly see, as a counselor, relationship counselor, does getting married affect people's perception of who should pay for what? Things like that?
I like the way that you turn back to me the question. Well, I think people fail to talk about financial aspect because they believe that talking about financial aspect in relationship, especially in the beginning of the relationship, is talking about money and talking about I want your money. And no, it's more about, especially before to get married. I've seen people get through a relationship not knowing that the other one was in a big debt, or in a big problem with some gambling, or they have issue before they never spoke about, and then they got married because they were happy and everything was fine. But once they were married, and then they go through a lot of trouble. And this is what I think you've seen as well, correct? So
a little bit.
One of the things can be that one.
So how would you try and remedy that? Just conversations before you even think about getting married, or?
Oh yeah. Well, if you get married, it's too late. But I think because you already signed a contract.
Yeah, well.
Because a marriage is a contract, correct?
Yes, but I guess there are things that to get out of it in a way. But we could discuss it later.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's interesting. But yeah, I think the discussion before to get married is very important. This is why I always suggest, especially young couples, to have conversations that are not easy. They're not easy. It's not easy conversation, but you have to have it. Even just understand if the couple have similar goals with money. Because if me and you, we are together, we are a couple, okay? You want investing in stock market, and I want to travel. There is a problem here, okay? So we need to discuss how we can get together in this. Anyway, what does getting married? This was the same question before. What legal rights do partner gain when they get married?
I suppose the simple answer is that the assets, regardless of which side they're on, will mold into one pot. So we form one pot of what the assets and liabilities are. Regardless, if I own it, you own it, we own it in joint names, doesn't matter. Technically, it becomes one. That's why when we talk about separation, we're separating that one pot.
The one part. Yeah.
There are other things to consider about this. It's like how much money that I bring into this relationship, what maybe the other person's non-financial contributions are to the relationship.
Okay.
Because there is a value to that. And then perhaps another big thing is how long you are together or how long you are married or in a de facto relationship. So let's say I bring in 3 properties before we even get married or in a de facto relationship, and then we separate within 2 months. My argument would be, well, you've never done anything to help me increase the value of these properties, so I should take them out immediately, and they should remain mine, and you don't have an entitlement to it.
Oh, okay.
But let's say we're together for 30 years.
Yeah.
Suddenly, that 3 houses that I had, I've sold it, bought another one. You've helped me do whatever. It's increased the value of the asset. Now your argument is, well, now I have an entitlement to it.
Okay.
So the simple answer to your question is it forms one pot, but there are so many different nuances to it all. That
and it doesn't matter the gender on this?
Not that I've seen.
Not that you say.
Yeah. Do you mean like if the woman or like the female brings in all the money and the male doesn't? Or
yeah, or because we already did talk about this, and there is this beliefs, this view that the court is helping more women than men in the dispute. What is your thought? I don't want that you say anything that you.
I think there is, I suppose, a perception of that.
Yeah.
Because more often than not, I'm not saying this is every situation.
Of course.
I'm just saying that more often than not, you have the male who does work and they generate all the money. They pay for the mortgage, and then generally we see the female as the one who looks after the kids and looks after the house and things like that. So when people say it favors the women, it's because suddenly all these assets that the male has brought in is now given, or some of it is, a portion is given to the wife.
Yeah.
But a lot of guys fail to put the value on non-financial contributions, looking after the children, cleaning the house, making sure that the family functions. That's so invaluable. Yeah. That the courts recognize that they need to place a value on it. So the perception is that, but I don't believe it.
I don't believe it. So, for example, if a couple, there is, in this case, her earning more money than him, okay, they're going to divorce. In this case, it's her helping him, correct? Correct. Yeah. So, and what is the kids? Having kids or not having kids?
What do you mean?
So if I have kids, if me and you, we're a couple, we have kids, okay? We're going to get divorced. The judge is, so the precaution on the divorce is heavier if as instead we don't have kids. So if me and you with
financial, there are factors to consider, like who will have the children more, I suppose. Yeah. And again, it depends on how old the children are, and every situation is very, very different. So,
but if me and you, we don't have kids, okay?
Yes. Yeah,
you earn more money than me. But I work, I can work.
Yeah.
What is in that situation? What you have seen, if you can say?
Yeah. I suppose, if I make all the more money than you, and you have the ability to work, then you might be given a smaller percentage of the asset pool.
Okay.
Because the argument would be if we did have children was I can't work as much as you because I've got to look after children more, then I should be given like a bit more of an adjustment. But again, like I say, everything is all very situational.
Oh yeah, no, of course. All the conversation here is
all very
broad
dependent.
and depends. Everything depends. The situation, every family, every relationship, different situation. When I talk about relationship, it's very broad. Every relationship is very different. This is why I don't like when people talk about men and women or genders in some situation, because you cannot say, "Oh, women do more than men do that." No, it's different. As it's not true that all the men are wanting sex all the time. Okay, there's a lot of women want to have sex and the men cannot do it or don't want to do it. You know, so it's the way that we talk is very generic and
very situational.
Very situational. All right. Now, thank you to clarify for me this. When should someone consult a family lawyer regarding the relationship?
In a separation, there's always two parties. There's one who wants to do it, and there's one who doesn't want to do it. Regardless, you should always see a lawyer whenever you are going through that process.
Okay.
So if you're the person who wants to go through the separation, try and speak to a lawyer first. Try and figure out, what exactly your entitlements are. If you are the person who is being separated from, I'm sorry, but you have to also get your legal advice.
Yeah. So a marriage is a contract, correct?
Yes.
Could be a good idea if couple make a pre-contract before to get married in their way.
What contract?
Pre-contract.
Oh, I suppose that's your binding financial agreement.
All right, that one.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you are in that situation, you want to get a binding financial agreement, then sure, you should get one and seek that legal advice as soon as possible.
As a counselor, I told you this. I'm not a big fan of that for the simple reason that if you start a relationship believing that you're going to divorce,
like one foot out
thinking
the door.
about it, you're going to do it. But yeah, I understand what
to me, it's always like if you get it done and you never need it, then you've just wasted money. At least you have it.
Yeah. How do courts determine how assets and property are divided in a separation?
So like I said before, it's all very dependent. Length of relationship, whether there's kids, who makes more money, things like that. Essentially, though, to me, I've seen is that the starting point is always 50%.
Yeah.
equal to each party. And then we defer from the 50% when we think about, who brought in what assets, how long the relationship is, and other non-financial contributions. That's when you start to see that there's an imbalance of the 50%.
Okay. What is if the couple don't find an agreement? What is the cost to go in?
The cost.
The cost, if you can say it.
I know every lawyer is really different.
Yeah.
And again, if it's a very long battle, it could be hundreds of thousands. But again, you could spend 10 grand and finish it all. You could spend 100 grand. It's all, again, so different.
So different.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you don't find an agreement, if me and you don't find an agreement, we go in front of the judge, the price go up.
The more time that we spend on the matter, obviously, the more it's going to incur costs and things. Yeah. Okay. So of course, if you don't come to an agreement early on, you're just going to keep generating that cost and you just keep going until you finish it.
Yeah. So this is why you're very good to help the couple.
I much prefer settling a matter and moving on quickly. Helps them, they didn't spend too much money and time on things. Get on to the next part of their life, and that's what I truly do enjoy.
Where is it? How do courts determine child custody arrangements?
Child, it's a really interesting one. So last year, mid to early last year, they got rid of the presumption that there's equal shared parental responsibility.
Okay.
What that means is the starting point is no longer 50-50 as opposed to in financial. The starting point is now what's in the best interest of the child. So if you have a parent who has been not seeing the child for a few months, the best interest of the child is never to go from 0% to 50% overnight. Okay. It's a slow process. You ask, depend on the situation. You ask for a couple hours a week and then you double it and you just keep going. You just keep slowly chipping away to get to a point where you are happy with. But yes, the courts really decide from what we've seen is what is in the best interest of the child.
Here again, I don't know if you can answer this, and you don't have to, okay? Again, there is a perception between the people that the court is more happy to give the kids to the woman instead to the husband, the wife to spend to the husband, or the partner A, female, than the partner B, male. Do you think this is, if you can answer, of course?
In a roundabout way, yes, and it goes back to, you know, who's going to be working all the time. For the courts. Who
spend more time with them.
Who's going to have the time to spend with the child, you know? And again, the most common that we see is that the male works, the female looks after the children. So I wouldn't say that it's favorable, but it's just the situation that you breed is what it's going to follow.
So if we want to avoid that, we should have women,
of course,
to work and to be more productive. It's not that they are less productive at home. No, absolutely. But have a job outside the house.
Make sure you're always seeing the child.
And the couple actually actively work together in the house. So the husband actually spend time with the kids, and more time is spent with the kids, more chance have to maybe the court to say, well, we can give to him as well.
There's a higher chance.
The higher chance.
The starting point is not 0%, I suppose. You can see it as like the starting point's a bit like 10-15%.
Yeah, it's very interesting how what is the perception between the population, the normal population, and what actually happened. I'm sure there is maybe sometime situations, but this is a conversation I had a lot of with my clients as well. And for me, it's very important they understand that the people like me and you, we are not taking sides, and for the interest of, well, you don't, I can't, because usually people come to me both. So if they can both, I cannot take sides.
Of course.
To me, both of them are responsible of what is the situation. The only situation where I don't take both of them, if there is domestic violence, at that point, the fault is always on the perpetrator, the one that actually act the domestic violence. So, and what can a parent do if the parent refuse to pay child support?
So it's a funny one, because I think a lot of people assume that lawyers deal with child support. It's actually like a government service. The Services Australia. They will calculate child support, and it's based off on your care percentage. So how often you look after the child in a fortnight. And then how much money each party makes, or what's the disparity in the earning income, and they calculate it themselves. If I'm not wrong, I believe it gets taken out of your paycheck from your company that you work for. But there are situations where we've seen that a party has neglected to pay because perhaps they are in their own company. and then they're reducing their pay and using company funds perhaps to buy their personal items and then perhaps paying it back later.
Okay.
So you can force a party in the court, but I can't remember what the procedure is. So don't ask me anymore.
Okay. This is not a thing that you do. So what's important that you clarify that family law do not do that. Usually.
Yeah.
And then there is maybe
you can have a private agreement. And then that's separate,
It's separate.
Yeah, but we see that very rare because one party will be saying I want more money than what Service Australia is providing to me, and the other party will obviously say no, I'm not going to pay that. And similarly, a party will say I don't want to pay as much as Service Australia is awarded, but the other party is obviously not going to take that. So yeah,
but they actually the law can force them to pay.
Not force, I suppose, but there is a way to get that money somehow. There will be a way. Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting as a thing because it's a lot of people have problem to actually get the money from their partner.
Yeah.
And it's expensive to this thing in court, or
what do you mean?
They ask someone to help you out to get the money.
I haven't personally done it. So I wouldn't be able to speak on it.
Okay. I need to find someone to do that. Okay. How does domestic abuse impact the relationship and the procedure in family law?
Yeah. So in financial, I think it's recently, but I'm not 100% sure. The courts have said that, if you have gone through domestic violence and you can prove that, there's a chance that you can get a higher percentage of the asset pool. I haven't seen it personally, so I can't really speak on it too much. I've only, read about it. So I do know that you can get a bit more, but I'm not sure like how much more and what they look at and things like that. So,
okay. But so domestic violence can be what is inside domestic violence? Of course, there is a physical domestic violence, but what else can be domestic violence?
So domestic violence is not, you don't get, I guess, found in the family court. It's more of a magistrate's court thing. I haven't done too many family violence restraining order or domestic violence matters. So I can't really tell you too much about it. But, it doesn't necessarily have to be physical. It could be emotional, verbal, things like that, even threats,
Threats,
that can be sufficient sometimes. It's dependent. Yeah.
Then what are the benefits of mediation in family law dispute?
I think mediation is so important in family law. In parenting, before you even step into the court, you need to get a mediation certificate. That's to say that, either you've tried to mediate with the other person or you've, and they didn't turn up, or you tried to do it and you just couldn't come to an agreement. And that's parenting. Sometimes, people can sort it out. But in financial, there's no requirement to do that before proceedings. What happens is though, when you start your proceedings in court, you go to after the absolute first hearing, the next one is usually to go to a conciliation conference, which is a mediation basically with a registrar. Yeah. And I can't speak for everybody. Yeah. But for me, every matter that I've taken to a conciliation conference has settled there. Yeah. Because the registrar will sit there and explain to you, how much time everything is going to take, what the law is, not to you, but to your client, what the law is. And perhaps, sometimes that's enough to help a client get over their bitterness. So I personally think mediation is very, very important.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes just to have a chat. really.
Have a chat, and mediation is like in everything, I think, is not just in law, in everything. You need someone to help you, especially if you're stuck with your partner, help you to get out from the gridlock. No, I have a question that is not here, and is about what is the difference between marriage and de facto. What is the difference between the two?
So marriage is like that's very obvious one, right? So two people, you know, coming together and signing that agreement.
Yeah.
De facto is a, I guess, I think in the States they call it like a common law marriage.
Okay.
So it's basically when two people are together and they've essentially viewed as a married couple, but they've just not gone through that process.
Okay.
But there are certain factors that the courts look at, like whether you live together, whether you share finances.
How many years you have to live together?
I think it's two off the top of my head. Yeah. And then but there's a whole bunch of different factors that they consider to see whether a party is in a de facto relationship.
Okay. So after 2 years, for example, no, make that 2 years is the point. No, you live together for 2 years, you become a de facto. Okay, me and you will become a de facto. Okay. Then the rules are the same as in a marriage.
In terms of separation, I believe so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Yeah, pretty sure. Yeah. Okay. So, and what are the things that people should do here?
I don't think that's a question for a lawyer. I think that's a question for you.
Okay.
You know? Like, what do you know? I can't tell you how I think it's going to help or what can help.
Yeah.
I guess the easiest way is to just say, you know, ensure that there's a binding financial agreement if there is an asset disparity. But yeah, again, that's a question I'm going to throw to you. How can, you know, what can they do to make this process easier or quicker or cheaper, really?
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking more about the way that people maybe can talk about if they're going to divorce, you know, what they're going to do. I always thought, I don't know why I have this perception that being a de facto was much easier than be actually married to get divorced. I don't, or to be separated.
To be separated.
To be separated. Sorry, I don't know why I have this perception.
Yeah.
This is why this question, because there is a perception out there that this is what I've seen from the people I am talking with, that is a separation is easier if you are in de facto than in a marriage. So, and you said that is not the case.
I'd actually might have to argue that it could be harder, but again,
okay.
Yeah. So if you need to prove that you're in a de facto relationship first, it's obviously going to be harder. If that makes sense. But the whole process is basically the same.
It's the same.
Yeah.
I was watching the other day this video, of course, this English interview with an American lawyer. And they were talking about, he asked a question to the lawyer and asked, do you think, and ask you the same question to you, do you think marriage is outdated?
I wouldn't, I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea.
No? Do you think there's other ways to the people should get together, or?
Well, I think we've got them pretty covered. You know, you're either married or in a de facto, or you're not together. So.
Yeah. This American guy was pretty secure about, no, yeah, the marriage is outdated. We should do something different, blah, blah. This is why I thought, well, every lawyer think the same. Are you going to get married?
Yeah, it will be. Yes.
Yes. When?
November.
November.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. Congratulations. Yeah, it's beautiful to say that actually someone work in your field. Actually, still believe in the marriage.
Well, yeah, of course.
Still believe in it. But it's very easy.
Become jaded.
Get say no.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. You know. Yeah. But as well, I think, do not have the step in your life take you away as such a maybe good things.
Yeah,
you know?
of course.
Yeah. Well, there is any suggestion that you like to give to our viewers about a recommendation about marriage and law and things?
It's an interesting one because I'm not going to sit here and tell you, if you want to get separated, you should get separated.
Yeah.
I think if you haven't that thought, you should really think about it. Perhaps speak to a relationship counselor. And then, but if you do want to go through that process, it's just to reach out to any family lawyer as quickly as possible.
If you could give an advice to yourself younger, I know that you're very young, but if you could give an advice to yourself younger, okay, for what you learned from your dad as well, what would you tell him? What would you tell to yourself?
Pay more attention in uni. So I didn't.
In uni?
Yeah, I wasn't the hardest working.
Okay.
And I think that really set me behind. And now I'm just trying to go through the motions and understand everything as quickly as possible.
Yeah. So study properly, study properly, and get well. Thank you, Taisel. It's been, I think, a good conversation. I hope you at home you enjoyed. So again, if they need a good lawyer, where they find it in?
Tan and Tan Lawyers.
Tan and Tan Lawyer, the best lawyer in Perth. Do you have a website?
Yeah, it's tanandtanlawyers.com.
Okay, fantastic. And otherwise, you can contact Age Radio as well, because the contact of Taisel will be here. Otherwise, if you need, you can contact me. I will give you his contact. Yeah, guys out there, be safe and think about before to get divorced. Try to have a conversation about what could happen if you do it, and be aware of what are the rules, correct? And the steps you must have.
Yes, in a way, yes.
Yeah. And yeah, stay safe. Ciao.
Thank you.